Thanks so much, Mel, and welcome everyone. And thank you so much for joining us as well, because it is the most glorious day. And I'm sure there are many places you would rather be than sat in front of a computer. So we will try not to take up too much of your time. Now, when I was putting this together, I was thinking about how when I was in year 11 and I was 15, we used to get sent off on something called study leave. And some schools still do this, but many schools don't do it in the way that they used to, in terms of just kind of going, right, end of school assembly, and then just letting you go and you just come back for your exams. When that happened to me at 15, I genuinely had no idea what I was supposed to do with that time. And it would have been really helpful if someone had told me what some of the revision techniques I could have used were, because I just kind of aimlessly read through revision guides and didn't really know if I was doing anything right. So the first tip I've got for you is to know your exam format. So you will be doing various different subjects, math, science, English, at least, if not some other subjects, humanities, modern foreign languages. And not only are you doing different subjects, these different subjects will be using different exam boards as well. And so, for example, in history, which I teach, there is Edexcel history, AQA history, and even within history, those exams can be completely different depending on the exam board. And so I wanted to give you a quick run through of how to find any exam you might be doing, so you can look at any exam papers, but also mark schemes, which can be really helpful. Now, in the files pod, you can download a PDF of this entire presentation. So don't worry if you're not jotting down this little flowchart that I've made for you just now. But essentially what I would recommend is, and it's the whole thing of, if you give someone a fish, you've given them a meal, but if you teach someone to fish, then they can make as many meals as they want, because you can obviously fish for more fish as you go through. So if I actually teach you how to find any exam, rather than your teachers having to give you PDFs of different exams, you can actually go yourself onto Google and find them. So here's the trick. So you can use other search engines. I'm not paid by Google to be here. Any search engine is fine. Type in the exam board. You might have to ask your teacher what exam board you're using. Then make sure you type in GCSE. If you don't type in GCSE, you might get A-level exams come up, and then that's going to really worry you, because you're going to think, I have no idea how to answer these questions. Rightfully so, because you're not doing A-levels. Then you want to type in whatever subject it is. So for example, I've got here AQA, GCSE, history. Then you might either, if you know your exams well already, you might just type in something like paper 1 or paper 2. But if you're wanting to look at a particular topic, so I've put on here Elizabeth, for example, type in a topic. What Google is then going to do is it's going to give you access to the exam board's website. And on here, you'll find all the exam papers that have ever been sat, and the mark schemes as well. You can download these, they're free to download, and then you can just review them. You can use them for your revision. We're going to look in a minute at how you can actually use those. But it's just a really helpful tool to be able to get used to what you're going to be looking at when you actually go and sit those exams. Next up, and this is a personal favorite, I do love to make these, but I never have the time. So I always love doing these with my students in revision sessions, is flashcards. And flashcards are not just pretty to look at, they're actually very useful. So flashcards use something called active recall. And so it mimics exactly what your brain has to do in an exam situation. So when you're sat doing your exam and your questions are in front of you, your brain is doing the process of active recall. So the prompting words on the questions are going to tell your brain to bring back to your short-term memory things that are stuck or lodged in your long-term memory, hopefully, because you've done lots of revision. So doing flashcards or using flashcards, there's the process of making them that embeds knowledge. So actually writing out definitions on one side, key terms on another, vocabulary, whatever it might be. Writing them out actually helps to embed that knowledge, we know that, but also then using them with your friends and family can help that active recall. So it doesn't really matter which side you use either. So the process of revising is 2 parts, so making them and then using them, and they tend to look like this. So you've got, that was fancy. You've got compound, which is a chemistry key term And I know that because I did put this together, and I thought, well, I'll use a science one rather than like an RE or history one, because that way everybody's going to have seen it. So it says a substance made up of 2 or more types of atoms chemically combined together. So a physical flashcard, you would have this, like one side would say the key term and the other would say the definition. And on a digital flashcard, because you can actually get websites that have digital flashcards if you're learning online like we do here, and then they kind of just flip over digitally. But flashcards are incredibly useful for those kind of quick answer recall things. So things like vocabulary, things like key terms, anything like that. This is a really good one, and I apologize if anyone is, because I'm assuming this is an Italian word. It might be a Spanish word. I'm sorry if I say this wrong, but this is something that I found that I've been using, I didn't know I was actually using the whole time. So it's called the Pomodoro Technique, and this is named after the guy that's kind of coined it. But this is so good for anyone who is like me. So one of my managers is on this call, so pretend you've not heard this. Sometimes I sit at my computer, and I think we probably all do this, and I've got a to-do list a mile long because I'm busy and I've got things to do. And so I look at my to-do list and I get open, I don't know, maybe I've got a lesson to plan, I'm going to bring that up. And maybe I've got some reports to do, I'll bring those up over here. Maybe I've got some marking to do, I'll bring that up. And I kind of just flick between different things, and I'm just not really very effective because I'm overwhelmed. There's too many different things to do, and I kind of can't iron it down to one particular thing. Or I'm the opposite, and I'm almost like manically organized and really, really on the ball and with it. And if I'm like that, then I sit down and I could work solid for 3 hours and not move to go to the toilet, not move to get a drink, just not move my body at all. Neither of those, unsurprisingly, is actually sustainable or very helpful. So when I do my 3 hour, like I'm really on it today, that feels great when I finished. But I couldn't do that every day, because if I did that every day, by the weekend, I would be burnt out. Probably migraine, headaches, it's not sustainable. And also being overwhelmed to the point where I'm not really being effective at anything is also not sustainable. So sorry if I've said the word sustainable about 100 times. The Pomodoro Technique is a really great way of keeping yourself in check, and it links to what Mel's going to talk about to do with well-being as well, because what we're not going to do is expect too much of ourselves, but we're also going to hold ourselves to account to make sure we're making best use of the time that we've got. So it works like this. It's a fancy name for keeping to a strict schedule, essentially. So this is what we do with you at school. As students, what we do is we keep you to a schedule. We make sure that you are in science when you're supposed to be in science. Then you're in maths when you're supposed to be in maths. And we give you sort of, at A21, we give you 40-minute bursts, because this is research backed. And we know that after 40 minutes, you're starting to switch off. The Pomodoro Technique says 25-minute bursts are ideal. 5 minutes either side of this is also fine. If half an hour works for you, great. If 20 minutes works for you, great. Depending on who we are, different things might work better. But in general, it should go like this. I'll show you. So first of all, plan what you're going to study. So like me with my to-do list, I have to have a to-do list, because otherwise I can't keep track of all the things. So maybe, for example, you've got a revision timetable. You might say, on a Monday night, I've been at school all day. I don't want to spend all my evening revising either. I'm going to do an hour of maths. Okay, so be specific though. What paper? Calculator, non-calculator? I don't know if that's actually a thing anymore. But whatever, angles, are you going to do percentages? Are you going to do graphs? What are you going to do? So once you've planned that, you're going to sit down, you're going to get that stuff in front of you, whether it's past papers, whether it's a revision guide, whatever it is. Get it out in front of you on your desk or on your table. Then you can take your phone. I don't have my phone near me. Take your phone and set a 25-minute timer and a 5-minute timer. Get them organized and ready, and set your 25-minute timer off. Then pick up your phone and lob it to the other side of the room. See you later. You don't want that phone to be in reaching distance, because you don't want to be distracted by it. Okay, so then you're there. You know you've only got 25 minutes. So it's almost like not a race, but you know that you've actually got a limited amount of time, and that pressure, that time pressure, can make us be really efficient with that time. And also, we're not looking at basically a study session that could go on indefinitely. You're going, well, it's only 25 minutes, so let's see what we can get done in 25 minutes. Maybe it's English. Maybe you've got an essay question. 25 minutes in an exam is the amount of time you might have to spend on an essay question. Maybe you say to yourself, I'm going to attempt this question, and once that timer goes off, I'm just going to have to stop. But at least for 25 minutes, this is what I'm going to do. Once that timer goes off, you're going to have to get up to turn it off. So you're going to have to get out of your seat. And that's really important. Don't ignore the timer. So when you go and get your phone, it's going to give you 5 minutes. So you set your 5-minute timer. And what you do with that 5 minutes is your business. I don't mind what you do. Go and get a snack, walk up and down your hallway, get some steps in, scroll on TikTok for 5 minutes for all I care. It doesn't matter, whatever makes you feel good. But what's really important is you stick to that 5 minutes. Then you've got your 25-minute timer again. You've lobbed your phone. You're back at it for 25 minutes. I think, from my own perspective of having used this, an hour or an hour and a half is perfect. So that is, an hour and a half would be 3 bursts. An hour would obviously be 2 bursts because you've got your 25 minutes and your 5-minute break. But this is really good for your well-being. It's really good for your mental health, and it's really good for efficiency, actually making the most of the time that you have when you are revising. And you're keeping yourself in check as well. You're not becoming overwhelmed. There's not too much to do. I really like that technique. I don't know if you can tell. Whoever wrote it should be paying me, I think, for that sales pitch. Okay, magical mind maps. This is just one of my ultimate favorites because I am personally not creative, but I've worked with so many students that have made just glorious, glorious mind maps. This is useful for pretty much any subject that you would need to make links between different topics. So here's an example of one that would work more like a flow chart. This is more like a flow chart going down. But some key tips. So mind maps are not the same as where you put what are they called? Where you put a word in the middle and you just put a few arrows off. A mind map is bigger than that. This could be like an entire topic revision resource. It's more like a knowledge organizer, really, when I show you the examples in a moment. So start with the main topic at the top of the map. So you might have, Ferrari, for example, the first topic is Christian beliefs. You might have Christian beliefs at the top. Then you might have an exam question, and you might have underneath that, what points could I make for? What points could I make against? What other areas of the topic does this link to? And it can really help you to organize your thoughts, especially when you're about to attempt an essay question, or you have to do things like evaluate and give examples of why somebody might agree or disagree with something. Look at these examples. So thank you to Sandra, who's our one of our heads, who sent me some resources that he'd use, because these were on there. And these are just, look at this English one. My goodness. I don't know what any of these words mean. Sorry to the English department, but this just looks, I have read some of these books though, but doesn't this look unbelievable? So you can see that you've got little images here that just brighten it up a bit. It makes it look a lot less boring. And this links nicely to what I'm going to talk about where you might put this. So again, like with the flashcards, when we're doing mind maps, there's 2 lots of revision that's going on. When you are creating the mind map resource, your brain is thinking all the time about what to put on there and why. Why are you putting that there? How are you making that link to that other part of the topic? So just the act of making it, even if you made it and screwed it up and put it in the recycling bin, you've still revised by making that. But if you've made it, and it looks amazing and you're really proud of it, then do not lose that. Keep it, because then you're going to put it up somewhere really important. Like the toilet, for example. I don't know where you might want to keep your revision posters. For me, this is what worked. Okay, so sorry if this is too much information, you guys, for a Tuesday afternoon. But when I was studying for my GCSEs and A-levels, we lived in a terraced house, me and my family growing up. And we had an under the stairs toilet. So it literally was like a toilet and a sink underneath the staircase. And so when you sat in it, you were like this, and the roof was, the ceiling was like that. So on the ceiling, I put all sorts of stuff. So I did French and I had vocab everywhere. So I was putting these mind maps up. But that meant that actually everyone in my house now knows a bit of French, because they were all learning it. So my brother and sister got to learn some French too. But also that was there. So every time I went to the toilet, this was before smartphones and before you took your smartphone to the loo with you every time. I would sit there. I had nothing else to look at because it was such a tiny room, but there was all of these posters, all of this revision everywhere. So one thing I would say is, as long as this isn't going to make you feel like stressed out, obviously don't put revision all over your house if then that's going to make you feel overwhelmed. But actually just having it somewhere like in a toilet and swapping them out as well. So once you feel like you've seen them enough, so if you've had a poster up in the toilet for like a week and you think, God, I could say that in my sleep, replace it with another one and keep doing it like that. So this isn't even going to feel, it's kind of like cheating, really. It's not even going to feel like revision because you're actually there to do something else. And you're just going to be reading it just because you're there and it's there in front of you. So I think this is really, really, and this is from personal experience that I know that this is helpful. So with these wonderful mind maps that you do create, there is a great place to put them in your house. And that is just anywhere that you're going to spend lots of time. So lots of students put them up in their bedroom, but I definitely would recommend the toilet if your family is okay with that. So teaching your siblings, the British Psychological Society, when I was doing my research for this, because students often tell me that if they've got nice siblings, they often tell me that their siblings do help them with their revision. And I did not have a very studious older sister, let's say. She didn't particularly, once she had been through her exams, want to help me with mine. So I don't know if necessarily this would have helped me, but definitely this is research backed. And as a teacher, I can confirm that I learn every single day through teaching other students. So when I'm teaching about something that I might have taught about for years, I can still learn a new perspective on that, because a student might say something and I'll go, oh my God, I've never thought about it that way, actually. So just having that dialogue with your siblings and having that dialogue with anybody who's willing to listen to you explain something is really good for helping you also see where you might have maybe missed something you could have thought about. So if you do have a younger or older sibling, ideally quite similar in age, so a much younger sibling, like a 6-year-old, is probably not going to be that helpful, but somebody who's at least in secondary school as well or older, if they're willing to be your guinea pig, do make use of them. It's also nice bonding time. So again, it does link to well-being in that sense of it's quite nice to spend time with our siblings if they are willing. Sorry, that's that picture of that dog again. I do like that one. Okay, this is one for me. This is a bit of me, this one. So I am an avid walker. I would walk all day, every day if I could. And in fact, I'm going on a 7-mile walk on Saturday. My friend is got a big birthday, and what she wanted to do was go for a 7-mile walk. How sad is that? But that's what we're going to do. And I love to listen to podcasts on my walks. And I most recently was listening to a podcast about washing up, and if washing up by hand is more beneficial for the environment and your pocket than using a dishwasher. And I personally found it really interesting, but I mean, objectively, that is an incredibly boring thing to listen to. So if I can listen to that on my walks, you can listen to some GCSE podcasts. And the BBC, on BBC Sounds, which is a free app, has some incredible podcasts. And again, this is almost like, I call it active revision, but it's kind of like passive active, because you don't have to do anything. You're just going for like a mental health walk. You might take your dog for a walk anyway. That might be part of your daily routine. Or you might be walking to meet friends. You might be on the bus going somewhere, just whatever. You've always got your headphones in, just be honest. So download BBC Sounds. It's only for the next 6 weeks of your life. Get onto these podcasts. And again, they're giving you revision. They're doing your revision for you. You just have to sit and listen. Some of them are really funny as well. They're really sort of, I don't know, that I feel like know their audience really well. They're genuinely not boring to listen to. It's not like my dishwasher podcasts or my whether you should wear barefoot shoes podcasts that I listen to on Radio 4. So definitely check those out, because again, they were not around when I was a student and I would have loved those. There's also loads of stuff on YouTube. So you probably know that already if you're in the middle of your revision. YouTube is a treasure trove. The only thing I would say is know yourself when it comes to YouTube. And if you think, actually, that's not going to benefit me because I'm going to become distracted quite easily on there, then I would steer clear of it. Because students would often say, oh, there's revision on TikTok and there's revision on here. But it's whether or not you can hold yourself accountable and not be distracted by potentially what else is going to come up there. You might end up in a rabbit hole of just watching silly cat videos like me. Okay, exam questions and quizzes, the golden ticket. Every teacher is going to tell you this. By far, the most effective thing to do is to, I don't want to say know your enemy, because your exams are not your enemy. Your exams are a way to show off, and they're a really good thing. It's an opportunity for you to show what you can do. But exam boards are not very creative. And I say that as somebody who works at an exam board. We're really quite uncreative people, but there's a reason for that, and that's because we have to work to a specification. So specifications are not very long. Your examiner cannot ask you any questions that are not on this spec. Now, we're 10 years nearly into this set of GCSEs that are currently doing the rounds, which means pretty much everything they were ever going to ask you about this spec has been asked before. So it feels kind of like cheating, but looking at past exam papers and doing past exam papers, practicing past exam papers is the best thing you can do, because you are going to then sit in your exam and you've probably already seen 80% of those questions because they've asked them before. And I actually have an anecdote about a student. I'm going to call her Brianna. That wasn't her name. And she was getting grades 3/4 in RE. I had her a few years ago, and I always remember her because she's such a great example of this. And this is true. And she really wanted to do RE for A-level. And I said to her, look, you're going to have to get your head down a little bit, because the grade to get into the A-level course at that school was grade 6, because the RS A-level is so hard. And she was sort of like determined. She went, right, okay, what can I do? I said, well, let's do some revision and start doing these exam papers for me, you know, when you've got time. She was giving me, after Christmas that year, on average, one full exam paper per week she was bringing in for me to mark, which was great because everybody loves marking. So she was bringing out all these exam papers, and she did that consistently. So consistency is key anyway. She did that consistently from Christmas to the exam, and that's all she did differently. So she was just attending lessons like everybody else. And eventually on exam results day, I was like, oh, you know, Brianna, how did you do? Are we going to get you onto that A-level course? She got a grade 8 on her exam. And I'm not saying that to show off, because this wasn't me, this was entirely her. And the only thing she did differently to other students in that class was practice exam papers over and over again. That's what she did. And it's boring, but like anything, I think, you know, if you're a bricklayer, the first time you build a wall, it's not going to be the best wall you're going to ever build, is it? It might have some cracks, it might be a little bit wonky, but the 100th time you build a wall, you're going to be an expert. So exams are no different. The more you actually look at the exam and practice the exam, when you go and sit in that exam hall, you're going to be walking in the park, because you're just going to think, oh, I've already seen this. I've done this question, because they're not going to ask you brand new questions every year. It's just not how it works. Lastly, then, Mel said she quite liked this one, cramming the right way. So I'm so sorry if there's any teachers on here and you tell your students that cramming doesn't work. I'm going to undo everything you've just said. I'm sorry. It does have its benefits. That's what I'm going to say. It doesn't work if it's the only way you revise, though. Okay, so this is one thing I would say, is that obviously all your teachers all the way through will say, don't just trust that, you know, you can cram the night before and everything will be fine. And I said that, of course I say that to my students, because it's true. You can't just revise the night before an exam and then, hey presto, you're going to get a grade 9. Of course not. But there is a lot of research to suggest cramming in the days or even hours before an exam can genuinely have an impact. And I think that's really positive news. If you are sat there right now and you think, I haven't revised at all, it's all over for me, you know, the exams are here. No. You can genuinely change your outcomes even this close to the exam. And that's what I want you to take away from this. Not that it's time to give up because you haven't been doing exam papers since January. There is a way, okay? And you have to just be efficient, like we were talking about with the Pomodoro Technique. You have to be prepared to be efficient about it. So here are my top tips. Yeah, identify your weak spots. So all these things kind of link together, I'm realizing as I'm talking through them. Get an exam paper. Okay, you can get them all online. I've showed you where to get them. And attempt as many questions as you can. Any question that you get to and you think, I can absolutely not answer that question, make a note of it. Just on a piece of paper, make a note. And do that with 3 or 4 different exam papers, okay? You don't have to answer all the questions. You just have to think to yourself, can I or can't I answer that? And if you can't, write it down. Once you've done that 2 or 3 times, you're actually going to have a list of exam questions or topics that you feel you couldn't answer a question about if it came up now. This means when you revise, then you're not going to be revising the things that you're good at. You're going to just be revising the things that you knew from looking at the questions you would struggle with. Okay. This is really important, and it's because our brains like the path of least resistance. So if you open a revision guide, your brain is going to, well, there's some people in the back of your brain are going to hijack you and take you to the pages that feel comfortable, the pages that actually contain things that you know pretty well, and you won't even realize you're doing it. So this is really important because you actually have to be honest with yourself and say, I can't do that in order for your revision to be effective. There's no point revising things that make you feel comfortable. So try not to panic. You've got time. Give yourself 15 to 30 minutes per topic is my advice. So this is going to depend on the subject as to how big the topics are. If you have not run through everything from one topic by the time you've finished this time, your Pomodoro Technique 25 minutes, be prepared to stick to your time frame and leave it in the past. Move on. You can always go back to those topics at the end, because some topics you will find will take less time than others. You'll find actually once you start doing it, some of them are okay, and then you can have time to go back. You probably do know more than you realize. Always students say that when they come out of an exam. Okay, I'm a bit conscious of the time. I think we're okay. Mel said I was allowed to go over slightly, but I think we've been all right. So my top tips before I leave you in the capable hands of lovely and wonderful Mel. Time is essential. Do not go into revision, please, without strict timeframes. Look after yourself. Otherwise, it's just like this never ending, this could go on forever, and that's just not good for our brains. If I went in to teach a lesson and there was no end to that lesson, it would be horrifying. Why do you do that to yourself when you're revising? Give yourself a time frame. If you're revising for 25 minutes and then having a break, make sure you stop after 25 minutes and have the break. Even if you think to yourself, oh no, this is fine, I can carry on. I actually feel all right. I'm in the middle of this. I'm going to carry on. Don't do it, because that's where you're doing that hyperactive revision, where you're going to then sit there for 3 hours. And then the next week, you're not going to want to revise at all. Make sure you're honest with yourself. Stick to those timeframes. Try to incorporate revision wherever you are, on the toilet, on your walks, anywhere that you can incorporate it where you're not actually really having to do anything. It's just there for you to look at or listen to. Don't waste time revising bits that you know well. Challenge yourself, even though it feels uncomfortable. That means you're working. And don't be afraid to move on to the next topic, even if you haven't finished everything from the previous one, because otherwise you might just find that you've over-revised one topic and you might not even get asked any questions about that. So it's not going to be super effective. Okay, we've got the poll up. Which tips will you find the most useful out of those tips? Please do answer in the poll, because I would love to know, because I'm just very nosy. But yeah, I think we're done with my section. So if you have any questions, please do let me know in the Q&A. I know that Louise has been answering some of yours, so thank you so much, Louise. And you can use that poll to let me know. Lovely to see some of you have said the Pomodoro Technique. That's great. Proper cramming, yes. Cram the right way. And don't tell your teachers that I said that you could cram, because they'll be cross. Thank you so much. Thanks, Mel.
Thank you, Mo. That was brilliant. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you all today. I'm Mel. I introduced myself right at the beginning, but some of you have joined since then. And we're going to carry on now to the next part of our session. Thank you so much to Mo, and thank you to everybody working in the background as well. So part 2, we're going to talk about well-being. So do you have any of your own well-being tips before we begin? If you don't, that's okay. Yep, sleep is great. Thank you very much for that one. Absolutely, sleep is great. But as long as you're fitting in some revision as well. Walks, perfect, lovely. Square breathing. We're going to talk about that. Thank you for bringing that up. That's fantastic. So more than anything, we've been talking about the Pomodoro Technique, the 25 minutes of revision, the 5 minutes of taking time to do something that you enjoy, but also in between your revision, you might have done an hour. What are you going to do after your revision? And it might feel that, during this time, during exams, that we feel that we prepare all the time, that we're revising all the time. So hopefully we're going to look in this section of thinking about how we can take care of ourselves, because we need to, don't we? It's really important that we look after ourselves during this time. So Pomodoro Technique, 5 minutes away from your revision. What could you do? How can we rest with purpose? We need to notice things that really work for us so that we can feel calmer and we can feel refreshed. Do you have hopefully some timetables going on? So between your lessons and what you're planning to do out of school. So as Mo showed us a plan earlier, making plans is a really helpful technique. So things that you need to do, things that you like to do. So there's a polling pod going to pop in here now. So can you give me 2 things that you need to do? So 2 things you need to do by Sunday, and 2 things that you like to do by Sunday, so that we make sure that we have a balance. So there's a short answer poll. So think about what you need to do and things you like to do, so that we balance the scales leading up to exams, because we can't constantly be revising. We need to make space for other things as well. So if you're not sure, maybe some of these will prompt you of things that you like to do. Maybe spend time with family, with friends, playing on a PlayStation. Could be on your phone, could be reading. I love to read. Listen to music. It could be sport, crafting. So there's lots of options, that things that you could or like to do. Oh, fantastic. Some fantastic answers coming through in the pod. Thank you very much. Excellent. Spending times with friends and having a laugh. What could be better? Thank you very much for that. So think about mixing it up, using a range of strategies, maybe revising with other people and connecting with other people, being physically active. So going out, walking, as Mo said, a 7-mile walk. I like walking. I like yoga. So showing kindness to others, learning something new, being creative. We probably have some artists in here, some great artists. Somebody said doodling earlier. So maybe, you know, taking that doodle a bit further, paying attention to that present moment, that mindfulness moment. So in the files pod you can download, we have this presentation. We have the next sessions that are coming. We have revision links, but in the presentation itself, you have this document or this slide where you could make a note of things you could do. So ways you could connect, take notice, be active, be creative, keep learning. So you could use this slide for yourselves to help with your planning for your balance. Okay, so we're going to have another pod in, and we're going to use this pod twice now for our choices. So we're going to look at the first one, and I'm sure as students, busy students with lots of revision going on and lots of work going on, which would be more helpful, A or B? In the number 1, question 1 first. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Some of you have said A. Well, we have talked about cramming with purpose, and that cramming can be quite a useful technique, but I wouldn't like to see you in A, but definitely B. Somebody said right at the beginning, getting sleep. Sleep is really important. So making sure that you get plenty of sleep. Brilliant. So we're going to clear the poll, and then I want you to decide in question 2 whether you are A or B when it comes to which would be more helpful. This delicious looking salad. I'm not a fan of tuna myself, but all of the other bits, absolutely. Or sweets, burgers, pop, crisps. Brilliant. I'm glad to see that most of you have gone with A, and the healthy food is better for us. So it is about, isn't it? We've talked about exam techniques. We're talking about our well-being, looking after ourselves, getting plenty of good sleep, getting plenty of good healthy food. Brilliant. Thank you very much for your participation. So strategies to take to stay calm, to stay focused. So we're going to talk about grounding techniques, and we're going to talk about breathing techniques, thinking about connecting. So you might be sat at a desk, that desk and yourself with your chair and the floor, taking notice of the present. What do you need to do? Positive self-talk. You know, I have revised, I'm ready, I can do this. Breathing, conscious breathing. So if anybody out there has done any yoga, you've probably done some breathing techniques already. So you'll know that breathing really helps us. When I take the dog out in the morning, especially not so much when it's raining, but mornings like today, just standing there with your feet apart and breathing consciously. And we're going to talk about that in a moment. And research shows us how breathing techniques help to calm us down. And then we're going to also discuss as well grounding techniques. And one of these is one of my favorites. So early on, somebody mentioned square breathing. So square breathing, you trace your finger along the edge as you inhale, exhale, inhale, and exhale. And you can use the square on the board. You can use the square that's there right in front of you and have a go at square breathing. Another breathing technique is 7-11. So you breathe in for 7 and out for 11. If you find that too much, you could inhale for 4 and out for 6. That's one of the breathing techniques we use within yoga. So in for 4 and out for 6. Coherent breathing looks at inhaling for 4 and exhaling for 4. So while we're all here at the moment, what I want you to do, we're going to all, well, I can't see you, but what I'd like you to do for me is belly breathing. Put your hand on your belly and breathe in as much as you can and see if you can move your belly out. Notice the breath moving in and out. Hopefully you can feel it. I hope you had a go. And then wave breathing, where we trace peaks and troughs as you breathe in and you breathe out. So breathing techniques, deep breathing, slow breathing, controlled breathing are really effective ways of managing our stress and our anxiety. And what we're doing is we're activating what's known as our parasympathetic nervous system, and it helps to promote relaxation. And that's what it tells us about the research behind breathing techniques. And consistent practicing of breathing can help us. It has long-term benefits, such as improved lung function, obviously, and reduced heart rate, which is ideal as you go into exams. So grounding techniques, I love this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, using our senses. So 5 things we can see. Now, I didn't put this into the polling pod of 5 things you could see because most of us would be looking at a laptop. But if you were out walking, maybe with a dog, maybe with your friends, or you're out shopping, and think about grounding techniques, using your senses. When you're in your exam hall, 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. So what can you smell right now? Let me know in the polling pod. What can you smell right now? Oh, that's fantastic. I'm really lucky. I've got some a really lovely oil in with the reed diffuser, and it's bergamot and nettle. Oh, it's lovely. Really lovely. Cut grass. Now on a day like today, that is a perfect smell, isn't it? With windows open in the warm day. Yeah. So things that you can smell, and then something you can taste. So that's the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique. Body scan. So this is another type of yoga technique when we think about starting at our feet and noticing each part of our body and how it feels, and just observe it. You don't need to change anything, but just observe it. Thinking about our toes, our knees, our hips, our shoulders and up through to our head. So just thinking about and observing our body. Counting backwards now. These could be helpful for French revision, Spanish revision, Welsh revision, or English revision. So counting backwards. Visualizing something, someone, somewhere you love. Me, the beach. Visualizing a beautiful sandy beach with lovely water and nice and calm most days. Some days I like a bit of surf, but mostly nice and calm. And a mantra. So that resilience that we were talking about earlier, thinking about a calming phrase, the fact that you can repeat to calm yourself. It could be anything that's important to you. Grounding techniques, again, the research shows that grounding techniques, like breathing techniques, can help anchor us, can help us put us in the moment, to make us present, especially if we're feeling some anxiety or some stress or overwhelming emotions. So they can be used to help us in gaining control and calm. Next, we've got to think about that period of waiting. That waiting that happens between us sitting our exams and us getting our results. So please make sure you take time for your health and well-being. Something that helps every day is just as important. That, you know, these techniques that we're talking about during exam time are really important in that period of waiting between the exams and getting our results. Think about what's right for you. Think about what success means to you, because success is not the same for everybody. You could make your own visualization board. There's lots of lovely bits of software out there to help you make it movable. Use a pin board. Keep in mind that we all have different needs and respond differently in this period. Stay busy. Look after your physical and your mental health. Results day. So whatever happens, you did the best you could do. Be ready to change the route, but not necessarily the destination. Not all of us go straight from GCSEs to A levels onto a degree. Myself, my route wasn't as straight as that to becoming a teacher. I did a course before I did my degree. So it doesn't matter, but just think about what is right for you and explore your options. So do you have any questions? Which techniques have you found useful today? You can answer in the poll, or you could answer in the Q&A. And is there anything we can assist with? Which techniques have you found useful? Will you breathe? Keep square breathing. In for 4, out for 6. Or the grounding techniques maybe 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let me know. Seven 11. Square breathing. Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much. Pomodoro. Yeah, Pomodoro with taking your breaks using a grounding technique. I love that. Thank you very much for that. Brilliant. That's fantastic. Thank you, everybody. So as we're heading in towards the end, and we've kept you a minute longer than we should have done. Thank you for coming in today. There is an attendance certificate you can take away with you. And there's a reminder here, along with the poster, of the other sessions or live streaming sessions that we are providing here at Academy21. Thank you very much for coming in, and thank you for being here. Take care, good luck, and see you in another session soon. Bye for now. Thank you. Bye-bye.